One. One.
Oh my God, what do I do? The camera's on. No, just kidding. Daryl Bates from Bad Mojo Media, ladies and gentlemen. We just had a blessed experience to have DannyJoe Carter play for us for some time. He played a few songs and really just demonstrated his skill set. Now we have that on camera, and that will also be on our podcast version, which will be on YouTube probably next week. So be looking for that. And when we feature that, we'll have all of your links so we can talk about how they can contact you and how they can learn from you.
Fantastic.
So back to the story. So this is kind of an in-depth story from my part too, because I'd like to discuss for this show how we met and some of the things we've helped each other with, and then ultimately where your career has been growing. And I'm so blessed to be your friend, and I'm even more blessed to hear your music and really get the chance to see what you can do.
Oh man, appreciate it very much, and grateful to be here, brother. It's really awesome.
This is cool, isn't it?
Yeah,
this
really,
is
really
cool.
neat.
So let me start with where I'm best at, and that's talking. That's a gift, right? At least if you're on a podcast, you better be good at it. So my story is kind of a long one too, and this isn't about me today, but it is part about how I met DannyJoe. Carter here, and how our relationship had blossomed. And so I was living in LA. I had moved from Wisconsin, and I was coming to Las Vegas only for work on a job site. And I didn't really know for sure whether I was going to stay here or not. I had no clue at the time. The desert seemed far from where I thought I would want to be. And so I ended up at this place, at a gas station, and I met DannyJoe. And he ended up being just extremely warm to me from the word go. And I would come in every night and talk some, and he had multiple things he was working on in his career. And one time, I don't know how it started, but you asked me, or I asked you about music. And I think you asked me, because I had long hair, so I suppose I fit the description.
You did.
And I said, you asked me if I played. I'm like, well, you know, you play a little bit. And then I think you sent me a song of yours on a link or YouTube. And I played it, and I about fell over. I'm like, holy shit, I can't play at all. Okay, I mean, this is the the stuff. And so what was really cool to me is that you had such an advanced skill set. And yet you were so humble, and you weren't bragging about it. You didn't be like, hey, I'm a rock star. You were just totally cool. And that humbled me in every way. And over a period of time, our friendship grew. And at some point, I got a chance to actually finally hear you play. And what I didn't know that impressed me even more, it was a lot of things, but the biggest thing I think was that you design and make your own guitars.
Yes.
So I'll get into all of this, and I want you to explain to our audience and to me, to everyone who's blessed to listen, how all that came to be. But first of all, again, just at the end of the segment, we're going to make sure we have links where people can get a hold of you.
All right, fantastic.
And I think that'll be a beautiful thing. So if I may ask, some of this you may not want to talk about, and I understand. And some of it maybe you want to talk about all of it. We have plenty of time to talk, and that's what this whole thing is. At the end of the day, we're all artisans in my heart. And I feel that each of us as human beings have some sort of skill on some plane that makes us different than everyone else. That's the uniqueness that we're all blessed with. From my perspective, let me ask you, give us a little background about who DannyJoe Carter is and how your story began. And then I'll shut my mouth and let you tell me and the audience how you are where you are today.
Oh man! Well, first of all, I'm very grateful to be on your show. I really appreciate it, and it's
Thank you.
It's pretty amazing sitting back here. We were discussing earlier. I think it's been probably about 3.5 years, pretty close to that, since we first met.
Yeah.
I'm working in the 7-Eleven of all things, and you started coming in, and right off the bat, you were friendly and cordial. But a lot of times when you're working in that capacity, when you're serving the public, people can judge you right off the bat. Oh, this guy's a convenience store clerk. And it was around Christmas time, and I seemed to be getting a lot of that because there was tons of tourist people that didn't live here. But you came in, all of a sudden it was really cool because you weren't treating me like a typical clerk.
Right.
I think within 30 seconds time we'd sparked up a conversation, and it was warm and friendly, and I'm like, I like this guy. And then you came in again, and then we kept talking, and then you had the long hair, and I thought, I gotta ask.
Right.
Do you sing? Because you came across as a singer, guitar player. I was like, well, this is it. But we started talking, and you were gracious enough to not prejudge me. And so I gave you my little business card, and it's like, well, here's a few things to have a little listen. This is what I love. Unfortunately, it wasn't what I was able to make money at, but and that's kind of the thing in the artistic realm.
It does seem that way.
Yeah, it's you ever heard the thing, the starving artist?
Oh,
So
yeah. I get that a lot. I mean, you can look at me and say, "Well, I'm not starving," but my pocketbook might be from time to time. But we move forward in life, and I think we do what we have to do, and then if we're smart and we're strong-willed, then we eventually do what we're supposed to do.
Yeah,
and I think we're both and have been in that course of life.
Yeah, it's a really neat, and it sometimes takes a while for the journey for us. I mean, I admire what you've done with Excalibur. It's incredible the work that you're doing. You're incredibly artistic. I'm still struggling a little bit. So between the music and the building of the guitars, and like you mentioned, I just didn't wake up one day and decide that, hey, you know what? I'm going to start my own. I'm going to build my own guitars.
Right.
It started from the time I was very, very young. I was literally 13 years old. Wanted to play the guitar since I was 3.
Right.
And just because of just things that happened in life, I didn't have that opportunity. But
right.
when I was 13, first time I got to pick one up, I was in a music store, and for those of you who are familiar with the Fender Stratocaster, it's
Oh,
an
yeah.
iconic piece.
Iconic, exactly.
And absolutely incredible. Everybody from Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, all the masters and the greats. So what do? I'm this dorky kid, and the first thing I do, I pick up the guitar, put my hand on it, and I'm looking around at the sales guys going, aren't these knobs in the wrong spot? Are the controls in the wrong spot? And they're looking at me, what is wrong with this kid? So oddly enough, the passion I had about wanting to play, I was struggling with the guitar because I felt everything was in the wrong spot. And the more I progressed as a player, I said, well, this is wrong. I don't like this either. And this continued, so the more I progressed as a player and not having lessons, doing everything the way I want to do, I just kept nitpicking these iconic instruments, and I'm going, yeah, there really is something wrong with me. But, you know, I got by, and as years progressed, I started catching some really good press as I progressed and got better as a player, and I was really fortunate the guitar magazines were starting to write about me.
That's awesome.
You know, it was really
That's amazing. That's got to be a high almost.
Well, it was really incredible, but it's kind of backwards because most cats out there touring, and you grind it out, and you get in a band, and you're on a label, and you get out there, and you start getting endorsements. It was kind of backwards for me. You know, I just struggled trying to put a band together, and especially the post-90s grunge era, and the way that I play, my music style, my approach is different, and it's always been very difficult for me to find a lineup of people, but I've always written and recorded. I got the recording bug and started putting stuff out, and that's actually what generated press for me. And I was fortunate enough, I was approached by a couple of companies to make a DannyJoe Carter signature model guitar.
Oh, how badass is that?
Yeah, it was really, really cool, but it was short-lived because I immediately started having problems because, well, this isn't what I want, and I'm really nitpicky. The quality control, this was the biggest issue. I had things where I'm like, well, this... no, this isn't going to cut it. And seeing how we're living in Dante's Inferno here in Las Vegas, we have it's unbelievable. If people don't understand this, if you're in any other part of the world, you know, you got these moisture-rich climates and things like that. We don't have that here. Things are incredibly dry, and
everything's dry. Your entire body.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
It's mummified after a while.
Oh man. So. The biggest thing is things would warp, things would twist. There's a certain way that you've got to manufacture guitars and instruments when you're living in Dante's Inferno. Yeah, and I just started having a lot of quality control problems, and it drove me to a point after being involved with a few different companies, and I said, you know what, I'm going to end up having to do this myself. And I've always, you know, I was always a repair guy, and I built probably 30 or 40 guitars prior to that on my own. But what was the nucleus for DeJayce? I finally realized I realized I'm going to have to do this. If I'm going to get this right, I'm just going to have to knuckle under and do it myself. And seeing how I had made them by hand before, literally grinding metal in the bandsaw and things like this. Some of the finest instruments that I'd seen and played, although they still weren't to my taste, but they were using CNC machines. And that was cutting edge, and the tolerances and standards and being able to cut to 1/10,000th of an inch accuracy.
That's so specific and so precise.
And you've got to have that, especially with the instrument. And I realized that, yeah, this is how I'm going to want to do it, but when you're an individual guy and you don't have a massive bank account and you can't build, you can't build. There's companies that will ghost build out there, but they want a minimum of 150 to 200 units.
So you got to already have a bunch of income going on or tons to spend.
And so I was still stuck with having to play these instruments that I had modified from major manufacturers. They were. It was a really difficult thing, so I had to start learning to do a lot of the stuff myself, and I got into SolidWorks, and I had these really cool JPEG drawings I'd scan them into my computer. Well, a CNC is not going to read that, so I had to learn all this stuff about, they've got CAD files with vector files, and and it was literally, it was about a 13-year process from the time I said, I'm going to start this and I'm going to do it. And it was
some years go by, you know.
Oh man, it was really, really tough in dealing with different companies that were promising me, saying, DannyJoe, I love your idea. Hey, we're going to do this for you, but we've got the convention, the NAMM show. We've got the music convention coming up. we're going to get a hold of us in the spring. So I'm sitting there waiting. Oh my gosh, I got to wait 5 months. It'd come along. Ah, man, sorry, bro. We took way too many orders. We're really not going to be able to get into that. But hey, get a hold of us in the fall. And this was what was happening. It was going on, and it was very disheartening. But I finally got to the point. I was able to find some CNC guys that took exactly what I gave them, and they were able to give me exactly what I wanted, and using kiln dried woods.
Yep, that's huge.
And it was such a big thing. And
yeah, you're not looking at your basic kit guitar here. You're building custom pieces.
yeah, and that's the thing is, and they won't be able to hear this on the podcast, but this instrument, there's as simple as it looks. I've got one pickup, one knob, and I've got this Floyd Rose tremolo system, and these are. They look incredibly simple and basic, and I've had a lot of people going, you know what, it's a lot of pomp and circumstance for as stripped down as that is. But it does precisely what I wanted it to do. And I've told everybody the most selfish thing that I ever did was start DeJayce Guitars, because it really was all about me. As I've got to have something that I can do for myself.
Yeah, but that, again, I get you when you say it's selfish, but at the same time, to grow your skill set and find that right instrument that's perfect for you only accentuates your ability to be even that much better of a guitar player. And by virtue of being a great guitar player, you also know what you need to build into that for it to perform right.
Well, you're right, and that's the thing. And thank you. That was very gracious of you, by the way. I think of it as, you know, I've always just played. I never cared, oddly enough, about getting into the theory and this and that. And there's cats that go to school and they became very knowledgeable in music and yeah, and it's
prestigious.
And it's some amazing stuff. But no, me, I was like, I'm hearing something in my head, and I specifically, I never heard players that put everything together what I wanted to hear in my head.
Right.
I heard a sound in my head, and I was always searching for guys. Man, that would be my favorite guitar player ever. You know. Now this isn't me thinking I'm the end all king cheese. It was just there was a sound that I heard in my head, and everything with my. We talked a little bit about my hummingbird picking. Folks can go online and look on my YouTube channel and see that. I came up with that, and it was mainly focusing on incredibly minuscule movements. I was inspired by Bruce Lee, you know, with his 1-inch punch. I was amazed at the amount of power that he could generate, and I noticed that really technical, fast guitar players, there was always a tremendous amount of movement, and I thought, what if we could finite this and develop this into such a, because a guitar string, what are you talking, a 32nd of an inch to get from one side to the next?
Yeah, it's so close.
I started really focusing on that, and I call it the hummingbird picking.
I think that's a perfect way to, you couldn't have picked a better terminology for that technique, because it does. It looks like a hummingbird wings moving so fast when I've watched you do it. It's just, I don't know what to say. I'm speechless.
Well, I appreciate you.
To the average individual learning to play guitar, that seems like super high speed, like light speed, you know.
You know, it's a lot of fun, but it took years to develop it, and it was really difficult because during the 90s era, the grunge era, there was not an emphasis on technical prowess. It was about, you know, there were some great songwriters and great bands that came out of that era, but that's why it's also made it very difficult for me to put a band together, because I've got this real technical skill set, and I like to incorporate it into everything, and people are like,
yes.
You're so good, you're probably never going to go anywhere.
Isn't that how strange is that to hear? And I think that's so true in so many different skill sets and art levels. If you don't understand what goes into playing guitar, much less building a guitar, to understand that your skill set's already elevated above everybody else's, it's like you're overqualified, and then they don't know what to do with you. You know, they can't mold you into something. The studios can't say this is how you have to play, because clearly this is how you play, who you are. And so to me, it just seems like, what's your option when you find yourself in that environment? And I think that's what you're doing right now.
Well, that's why I ended up
creating.
And it kind of drove me to the point where I kept recording and putting things out, and so I'm grateful for the fan base that I have, because there's
we're going to work on that. I want the world to hear this show. I want everyone to see the amazing musician that DannyJoe is. So.
Oh man, I'm grateful, and like I said, I've got a lot of really cool stuff I'm really proud of that I've recorded and I've put out.
And just to throw this in here, ladies and gentlemen, some of these are going to be on this podcast. I'm going to play the entire version of several songs that we've already put on our podcast. So you'll be entertained by that for sure.
Oh,
Just to throw that out there.
No, I'm grateful too, and you can see me play a little tighter. You know, it's like you got that camera on and going, and I don't care who you are. The minute that camera pops on, like I was telling you, you're a rock star. That camera comes on, you're like, well, I'm on camera now, so.
Yeah. You know, I tell you the truth though, it's like playing guitar or anything else you do. I used to also feel very intimidated by certain things. And anymore, with a camera or microphone or something, it doesn't bother me at all. I'm like, hey, what's up, everyone? You know, I don't feel that.
You're a natural.
But that's because I've been doing it for a little while. I mean, now, give me a guitar in front of the camera and be like, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Whole different story. I get it.
Yeah, no. So, but that way they kind of see and hear what I do in the exact way I want to present it. I'm a bit of a control freak, you know. But I know a lot of players are. I've heard about that. But yeah, it's been an exciting journey. Like I said, starting DeJayce, and it was mainly, like I said, it's the most selfish thing I've ever done, because I said, you know what, this is all about me and it's what I want, because there's so many things about the guitar that I fought, and what it does is I felt that it robbed me of my creativity. That's literally what happened, because if I'm thinking about, well, the knob's in the wrong way, this is wrong, the neck is in the wrong, everything about it, then I'm concentrating on that while I'm trying to perform.
And not necessarily the performance itself.
That's what it was.
These things are distracting you.
Yeah.
So creating this the way you wanted it to feel, it was paramount to realizing the skill set that you have.
Well, and the thing is, now I have no excuse. The guitar is perfect.
Yeah,
if it's not playing, if it's not sounding right, it means I'm having an off day. It's not playing right.
Is a mother of all invention. I mean, everything was created at some point from a need to have it different from someone's perspective or everyone's perspective without them even knowing it. So I'll tell you what, though, give me just a quick minute. We're going to take a quick time out, and the show will be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back again. This is Daryl Bates from Bad Mojo Media, and today we're featuring DannyJoe Carter, musician extraordinaire, and his beautiful DeJayce Guitars. So I wanted to just talk really briefly about the value of learning from others, and I think that the biggest premise for me on this show is to share that. When I feature artisans, we're all blessed because we get to see and hear and listen to their stories and what they can do. But I think that the other side of that coin is taking that message out there and helping others achieve that. So I call this show Passion Driven, because I feel that each one of us has a different thing in life that makes us who we are. And one of the best things that I have in spades is a strong passion for things in life. And I think that's the same for all of us in some ways. And a lot of people don't recognize it. They feel like, as an example, just look out there today in the world and see everybody arguing about politics or arguing about, you know, so clearly they're very passionate about that. They're always pissed and angry and fighting amongst one another, right? And so in its own way, that's a passion-driven thing that they feel. And so, but I would like to capture that instead and use it for a productive thing. And I say to people that when you listen to Chris Lavin or Henry Ashworth or today DannyJoe Carter, and you see the story of passion that they put behind their art and their skill set and how they bring that out to all of us. And that helps us be inspired. And so to me, I've always wanted to play guitar well all of my life. I even wanted to build guitars, and A, I'm not a very good guitar player, and B, I'm not a very great guitar builder yet either. But that being said, I'm playing with both, and I'm inspiring myself from others. And so anybody out there that wants to learn to play guitar or learn to build a guitar, or learn to be whatever God gave them as their skill set, I ask you to follow your passion and become motivated and follow that vision and that dream, because that's how we get where we're supposed to be in life. And it never happens unless you actually just do it. So I'm inspired by all those around me, and hopefully everyone who's listening can become inspired to follow something that they love and wish to do with their life. So once again, I'm just thankful that you're here. I'm thankful that we have this opportunity to share this with others. And we'll be right back. All right, we're back again. Bad Mojo Media, Passion Driven with DannyJoe Carter today. And we've got a new guest that we're going to introduce here in just a second. At least we're going to try to. Hopefully this all goes according to plan. Go ahead. So this is our shop mascot. I call him Mufasa. He was rescued. He's an amazing animal. I love him. He was a scrawny little dude who was probably going to die outside. And we took him in. Jill, of course, made me, but now I'm very happy I did. And he's been excitable. Normally he's chilled and relaxed. So that's our shop mascot. Thanks for coming, buddy. We'll see you later. So back to the show. I wanted to just say, first of all, that this was a great opportunity for me. And DannyJoe, thank you so much for coming by, brother.
I'm grateful. Thank you so much.
Again, the story to me is as important as the art that we share with our stories. To me, watching and knowing you very personally, knowing a lot of what you went through in your youth to find the stability and find the passion that drove you the most. Now I know you have several passions in life. I know one, of course, as we're sharing here, is music. The other is family with your wife and your children. And I think that's huge to us all. I know that they play the biggest role in your life, probably bigger, I'm certain, than music. And you're pretty blessed. I've got a chance to know your wife and your boys.
They're amazing, and they are my rock, because I had an incredibly tumultuous childhood and upbringing. You know, my mom was married 11 times.
Isn't that like a record?
It was rough. So that's a lot of guys trying to be my old man. And you know, spent time in an orphanage. It was really, really rough. So there was you know, I didn't have any type of family life. So to have this later in life, I cherish it. And that's the thing, so it's amazing, definitely a blessing.
You know how you want to treat your children.
Oh, absolutely.
And your wife.
Yep, and they're all spoiled. They are. Definitely.
Yeah, I did the same. My parents, I am fortunate to say they're 80 and 81 this year, my mom and dad, and I'm also extremely fortunate to say that they taught and raised me well. But it was hard, but it was hard in a good way. What we used to think of when we were kids was hard and seemed unfair at the time. In hindsight, I can say my parents had it right in trying to make me respect, work hard. If I was at a line, I'd get it hard. I'd get it back immediately. I learned to respect my elders. I learned a lot of valuable lessons. Now, when I was a dad and my daughter Kiana came along, I think I instilled as much discipline as I could in her life, but what I also instilled was joy and love. Because I know that that's what I always felt hard to find when I was the youngest of 6, and we grew up on a farm. So sharing all that with her was the most memorable time of my life. And I think if there was anything I've ever achieved and ever will, that was certainly the best of it. So we're both hold that in high regard in our life.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that only makes our art more special to us and more meaningful. I'd also like to mention too my better half, Jill. She's the amazing individual behind the camera. She runs Just Jill's Art. She's an amazing artist, and just about everything she's done that I've witnessed and learned from her. And we'll be seeing more of her. I mentioned earlier she's going to be behind on this side of the microphone here soon. I couldn't convince her to get here today with me, but I will. And she'll be the one to keep me on my toes and in line and make this show a lot more fun to have somebody prettier than me and my other guests, usually men so far. We need some females in here, come on. So, but about you and what we want to do, I'm going to be sharing a lot more of DannyJoe's music and links as we go along. You'll see these on YouTube, and you'll also see them on our podcast version, and hopefully I can put direct links where you can actually go right to your library, listen to your music, purchase your music, and also I think it's important to talk about the beautiful line of DeJayce Guitars, because after meeting a lot of people out here in Vegas, I have been fortunate. I've met some good guitar players, and I've met some other people who build. I've got a chance to see and play and listen to some great musicians and music. But nothing really compares to what I've seen in your quality and craftsmanship with these DeJayces. So if you want an heirloom guitar, one that you will carry with you forever, one that you will learn and grow with much more than you probably have with anything else, and if you want it specified to something that you like in terms of color or finish or some other unique feature, get a hold of DannyJoe with DeJayce, and let's let him make you something that will be memorable for the rest of your life and sound the same. Big difference in quality makes all the difference in the end result. You can't buy a skill set, unfortunately. If you could, I'm sure you'd be you'd be loaded by now, right?
Well, it's fun being on this side, you know, doing the building part of it. But like I said, I built them for myself. But I've built just over 70, and I've lost track, but I'm really, really fortunate. There's some guys out there that are, yeah, it's been really neat, and some guys that have really helped push me along. I gotta give a shout out to my buddy Ken Gillette. He is, I've made, I think 5 or 6, I think 6. He gave one of them away to a celebrity. I've got him, and I've got a guy named Mike Neufeld, touring musicians, some great guys. There's some just amazing people out there that have who own my instruments, and they love them, and I'm grateful for everybody that came and shared in my passion, because there's guys that pick them up and they go, oh, okay, I get this. I see what this is all about. And a lot of people look at them from far away and look at it and go, well, it looks like this or it looks like that. How's it any different? It's when you pick it up. There's a lot of things that are very, very unique about it, and you can read a little bit on my website. I'm a huge fan of, like I mentioned, carbon graphite stabilizer rods. And that sounds really, really complicated, but pretty much what it is, as I mentioned before, we live in Dante's Inferno. Okay, so things dry out here tremendously, and the necks are the first things that go on a guitar, and especially as thin as my necks are. Issues that I had with other companies, they would backbone, they'd warp, but I had discovered carbon graphite stabilizer rods many years ago, and those are actually incorporated into my necks.
Much more stable.
Yeah, and there's kind of a byproduct with that too. Something I wasn't anticipating was there's a tremendous amount of additional sustain, because those carbon graphite stabilizer rods, they interact with the truss rod itself, and which is that's the steel rod that runs the length of the neck to keep things straight and stable. And one thing that I wasn't anticipating happening with that was the sustain. No matter where I am on the neck, the notes seem to ring out more, because you got those carbon graphite stabilizer rods on both sides of the truss rod, and it just creates such a sonic,
sustainability.
The sonic sound properties of the thing are just incredible. I can feel it in my hands when I'm playing, the way it responds and reacts with the amps. It does a lot of stuff, it. So there's a lot of little things during this process for me building the ultimate guitar for myself, and I'm grateful to those individuals out there that have come along and said, hey, I've got these, and there's I'm drawing a blank right now. There's so many guys that I'm so grateful for that I've been able to build these for. And
you told me earlier that you have 10 in the works right now.
There's several of them, and I told everybody in the last.
I wanted to hang it right here.
Are you kidding me? We'll make the Excalibur. You better believe it. I promise you,
man. I want to have one right here. And then as I get good and finally learn the shit that maybe I'd like to learn finally, and then I can do it back here, right? It's part of the show.
That'd be awesome, and we'll make the Excalibur model, and along with that, that's exactly what it'll be.
There you go.
And then you'll also get a lifetime of free lessons too. Since you've been so great. Well, there you go.
Hey, you could be on the show every week. Right?
It'd be awesome.
Be like, you got to have that guy in house that's playing you that beautiful music every time.
Oh, there you go.
You're much better than that. But again, I thank you for being here. I think that the message that we shared today was we all go through different things, and if we are strong enough in our conviction of belief, regardless of what race or creed or whoever you are, if you possess passion, then use that like a damn fishing lure is what I feel, and latch onto those things that you want to follow in life, and go out there and make them happen. DannyJoe is very inspirational to me, and he's a great example of the things you can overcome to be the best at what you do. And DannyJoe, to me, you are that. So thank you.
Man, God bless you. I sure appreciate you, brother.
You bet, buddy.
I do, and I cherish our friendship, and this is such an amazing opportunity to come on your show.
Yes, it is.
Like I said, and I'm proud of you watching from how we met across the counter at 7-Eleven.
I probably had glitter and epoxy stuck to me. I probably did not look good, I'm sure of it.
You did, and when you shook my hand, I had it on me the rest of the night. So.
And your wife later is like, I said, no, I'm just kidding. But seriously, that can't happen. But so listen, stay tuned, watch weekly, follow our YouTube channel. I've got both Excalibur Artisans as well as Bad Mojo Media, so you can follow us and all the interesting people that we're going to continue to bring on. I'm going to feature a lot of Danny Joe's music because I feel it fits with the mindset that I have. I like that it's advanced. I like that it has a beautiful sound. I like that he's created it, produced it, made the guitar he plays it on. That's freaking amazing. I love it. So, and again, follow Danny Joe's career and get a hold of him for anything that you may need. And we'll be back again next week. And you never know who we might have. It could be your favorite star, or it could be your damn neighbor if he's talented. We don't know. But hey, stay tuned. You're going to hear some great stuff. Thanks, everyone.